iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.
Welcome to another episode of Growing Up Broadway, the world's first podcast for theater makers who are young or young at heart.
Today's show features master teaching artist Cindy Ripley and Broadway superstar and star of Mrs. Doubtfire, Rob McClure.
So help me, Sondheim.
So help me, Sondheim. Growing up, yeah, we're growing up. Yeah, we're growing up Broadway.
Welcome to Growing Up Broadway. I'm your co-host, Timothy Allen McDonald.
And I'm your other co-host, S.J. Arniger.
So how was your Easter?
It was a little sad, I'm not gonna lie. I was my first Easter in 37 years not being with my family. So it was a little on the sad side, but I got to FaceTime with my parents and see my niece down in Florida. So it was a weird Easter, I will say, but we celebrated with the traditional, bacon, egg, and cheese on an everything bagel. So,
Well, Stephen and I decided that we really wanted some sort of pork. Like, you couldn't get a ham anywhere.
Yeah.
And so, I kept sort of going to the grocery store in New York City is like running the zombie apocalypse. So you feel just like you come home traumatized every time. So Saturday morning, I got up early and was first in line. And when the store opened, I went right to the meat section to see if there was anything. And it was like some really sad beef roast or maybe a roast chicken. And there was only 2 of each of those left. And people were starting to have the same idea as me. So I'm texting Stephen and I'm like, should we do the chicken or the roast? What should we do? And he was like, do the roast. And then I looked down and over with the parts of the chicken that you don't eat, like the chicken feet and all that, there was a single pork roast. And I ran, I grabbed it, I hugged it. I was like Miss America. I was jumping up and down. It was tears, me with this cradling a hunk of pork.
I would have paid money to have seen that.
It was like all of my emotions for this entire month came out, and it was all about that pork roast.
Yeah. I will say it is very odd to have to line up to go to the grocery store. So I've been doing this. I can't go on the weekend because it is just jam-packed because we have one grocery store in my neighborhood that is on the larger side. So I've been going Tuesday mornings at 7 a.m. as soon as they open. I'm the first one there. There's nobody there really. But I also walked in and it was completely picked over. They hadn't restocked the shelves yet. So I was like, there's only one thing I'm truly craving right now. And the Skinny Cow ice cream cones. It's like comfort food to me right now. The whole entire ice cream department is completely empty. There is not one stitch of ice cream in Astoria at all.
Well, the frozen section in our supermarket there's nothing. There's even those pearl onions that were the last remaining thing on the shelves. People have figured out something to make out of that. Yeah.
I will say we have all the vegetables in the world. Anything frozen? Nope.
Yeah, the fresh foods are great. And our little greengrocer market, which is such a New York thing, they sell everything, but they don't really sell meats. But it's so well stocked, and they're doing such a great job of keeping it up. And I went and bought a bunch of stuff, and I forgot my wallet because I don't go out of the house, so I have no whatever. And I was $4 short of cash, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll just come right back. And the woman who owns it was like, don't worry about it, you can just get me next time. I start bawling.
I will say, I think the humanity in the world, I think especially for us as New Yorkers, where we always kind of get a bad rap with being tough and abrasive, we also have some of the kindest people in this city, and you witness it every single day. I don't know if you've been opening your windows at 7 o'clock and listening to the screams and the cheers of just praise for our healthcare workers. It's something to behold. I will say that.
I take my UE roll and I put it outside. And I've been playing Sinatra's New York, New York for the past 2 weeks. which has been really fun, and everybody sings along and people dance, and it adds this whole level of like, yes.
It's unbelievable. I thought in my apartment, because I'm kind of tucked back in a corner, that I wouldn't be able to hear anything and I couldn't participate. But as soon as 7 o'clock, my whole entire neighborhood just absolutely erupts for 5 to 7 minutes. And it is the one thing right now that I think just you look forward to as a community to be able to come together.
Yeah, I always feel better after we do that. And you know, it's funny because one of our guests today is Cindy Ripley, and I think she started the tradition in her little village in upstate New York.
I love that.
Talk about that. Hey, what's going on with the Disney fundraiser? Where?
So on last week's podcast, I announced that iHeartRadio Broadway was going to be a part of the Broadway Cares Disney on Broadway 25th anniversary concert to benefit the COVID-19 fund. And there was some issues that happened with the musicians union, unfortunately, and we thought it was kind of dead in the water. But on Monday, we got quite the surprise through petitions, and the musicians in the pit that night for the concert all really rallied together, and the president of the musicians union kind of backed down. So on Friday, April 17th at 7 p.m., iHeartRadio Broadway, Broadway Cares, Playbill, are all going to be live streaming this Disney on Broadway concert. It's truly one of the most spectacular concerts. It's all to raise money for the COVID-19 Emergency Assistance Fund for Broadway Cares and the Actors Fund. The fund itself, they just announced, has raised over $2 million in the last month. We're trying to raise another $1 million. On top of that, a small group of producers have pledged $1 million on top of it to the fund. So this is the time for our community to really rally together, to come together, to witness such an amazing, 90 minutes of Disney music. So this Friday, it's back on.
I'm so excited. It was the event of the season. And also for, I'm getting a lot of people saying, how can I help New York? How can I help? What can I do? Well, most of these actors are without salaries right now, and some of them may not even have enough weeks because you have to have a certain amount of weeks to get insurance. So funding Broadway Cares through events like this, where you're getting, you're seeing this amazing Disney concert, but then also send $1, send $5, send $5 million if you can, but it really will make a big difference.
Absolutely. And the thing that I think most of the public doesn't understand is that this is for the Broadway community as a whole. We're talking dressers, we're talking makeup artists, we're talking backstage crew, people who are in the industry right now that don't have any sort of job security. So this is just something that helps our community as a whole. And, Broadway Cares comes together at moments like this to really, really help our industry completely.
Yeah, they really do.
And
go ahead.
I was going to say, also on Friday, you have a big premiere that's happening on Friday.
Yes, I am so excited. And also, this literally broke while we were doing.
Yay!
We have the Big 1-0 Junior, a Zoomsicle, and it's premiering live Friday, April 17th at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on our iTheatrics Facebook and YouTube pages. Plus, right after that, we're going to hold a virtual cast party that's going to be hosted by Isabella Russo and Luca Padovan. And they're going to interview some of the performers who had just, and their parents. And they're doing we're just going to try to recreate that sensation of like the show's over and everyone's like, woo, woo, woo. So it's going to be fun. You were actually, I should also say that the big announcement in Playbill is not just that this is happening, but Music Theater International is going to license this version of the show. We're going to get it out there super fast in like 2 weeks so that anyone worldwide now has the ability to bring their kids together and put on a show. Not just
That's fantastic.
You were at rehearsal.
I was. You didn't know I was at rehearsal.
I usually come in at towards the end and just check in, and then you can't see if people's videos are off, and then all of a sudden, boop! Jay, you had a giant bag of popcorn when you're like, oh, that's really good.
So Marty, Director of Education Marty, invited me so I could be able to talk about the Zoomsicle on today's podcast. And I was like, I think I understand how it's going to work. And so I was like, just come and watch. It is fantastic. So I have been a part of the Big 1-0 since you started, really. I've seen the Atlantic theater production. I've seen JTFers do it. I've seen regional productions. I saw the summer workshop. So seeing this version come to life is truly, it's mind-blowing because y'all have figured out how to make things work with off-screen, like moving things and lights and action and props. It is super, super fun. And I think the fact that teachers and students can actually do this now in their own communities in the next 2 weeks, just to give them something to do with such amazing material, props, like hats off to you guys, because it's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. It's been really fun to do because, those of us who do theater, and when you can't do what you love, you just feel kind of worthless, like what's my contribution? So being able to get back, in the Zoom where it happens and to watch these kids collaborating together and problem solving, and it's been really rewarding. So I can't wait to share it with the world.
You guys literally tune in on Friday because your minds will be blown. The kids that are performing in the Zoomsicle are crazy talented. They've been some of past JTFers and summer workshop kids for you. So I'm like, oh, I know him. I know her. So putting it all together, I think you guys are going to have a really great time.
I do too. So join in. All right, let's welcome our first guest. iTheatrics' own senior educational consultant, the talented Mrs. Ripley. Woo!
All right, here we are.
Hey!
Hi, guys.
Hi, Cindy.
How are you, SJ?
I'm good. How are you doing? How are you and Al?
Just great. We're doing fine up here. It's fun to kind of watch everybody get a rhythm and rally together and learn a little more about yourself, because it's like when you put extroverts, it's kind of like you've been in a straitjacket and you got to figure out how to be creative about it. And that's been fun, trying to connect with everyone.
So what's the update from Buffalo? Tell us, what's the mood? How are the grocery stores? What you guys?
It's good. It's still a city, and it's still in New York State. So it's a lot different than other places. There's a lot of cases and a lot of care, but Buffalo's always been a place where everybody rallies and takes care of each other, especially in an area where there's a lot of small businesses, like in your sections of New York and all those. In fact, we have a lot of friends who run small businesses, and they're saying people are being so kind. Like they're leaving tips that are bigger than their food order, and they didn't really need the food order. We just want to support the restaurants. So the refrigerator's packed with stuff you'll eat sometime, but it's just to show the support. And like Tim, with your nudge the other day, we got our whole street going on the 7 o'clock, bang your pots and pans, and the little kids come out. I'll take a video and send you. But they all said the same thing that you're all saying. It makes everybody feel good. The kids are being very creative about it. I love your version to do in New York. New York, that's what we need. But we have 5 healthcare workers on our street, and that made them feel really good, so that was really great. So it's like every place else. The minute you see everybody engaged, because we're all people person, the way you do it, it just making it creative and happen is what it's all about, and we're all in a better place for it.
Well, and everybody's in the same boat together. It's not like there's one community that's affected more so than somebody else, or those that aren't affected. We're all in the same boat. So I think the fact that we're all coming together right now is a testament to who we are as human beings and just the love and support that's really out there right now.
Right. I totally agree.
So Cindy, you're also a reoccurring workshop leader for Teachable Tuesdays for iTheatrics. For those that may not know, those who haven't been able to partake, let us in on what Teachable Tuesdays is.
Well, Tuesdays are a cool day because every day at 4 o'clock, there is a free Teachable Tuesdays workshop that anyone can join. And it's just where we share musical theater training in a short amount of time, usually half an hour to 45 minutes. And it could be from direction to music to choreography to putting it all together. And we're going to focus on technical theater next Tuesday, so that's pretty exciting. But it's the most rewarding experience on both ends. because everybody's doing what they love. And when you see all those faces of everybody doing what they love, it's like getting the hug that doesn't even feel virtual at this point. It feels really great.
Well, and it's watching everybody come out of Teachable Tuesdays and go on social and talk about what a fantastic opportunity this is. And it's just also a break in their day to be around other teachers.
Mm-hmm.
How many teachers get to participate every Tuesday?
We've had about 60. We've got room for some. And if you're interested in doing it, people can just go Lindsay at iTheatrics and she'll put you in the Zoom where it happens. And that's the fun part. And we've had people from all over the world. I mean, when those Aussies are getting up at 6 a.m. yesterday and we're waving at them, that is pretty darn cool. And then later they might text me and tell me what they were really wearing. But, you know, it's really fun.
Did they show up in their sparkle jackets?
No, but, you know, I think we're going to have some fun dress codes coming up. I'm ready to put on a gown or something formal. Aren't you all? Yeah?
Yes.
I mean,
at least on the top.
If I can still wear yoga pants, sure.
I know the yoga pants can't change, but the rest, you know, it's about time I whip out a few old signature necklaces. They're getting dusty.
There you go.
Cindy, what advice do you have for teachers and kids who are listening and, you know, their show has been canceled or postponed? And, you know, right now the struggle is we can only plan sort of week to week. We don't know when we're going to reopen, which is great. It's what we need to do. But so what advice can you give those folks?
You know, we all need that advice on every level. I even have student teachers right now who are trying to get their final, they've graduated and they need to learn how to be with kids when they're not with kids. Kids who have had their shows canceled. As directors, we all know how that feels when something's canceled in front of you. And I think the first thing is, we have to get a schedule. You have to set some goals for yourself because we all get excited about the next thing. Just knowing I was going to see you today was all exciting. You know what I mean? We need those little pieces. And they have to do something creative. They have to do something creative with themselves or with someone else, but then they have to share it. We all have such great access to phones and digital devices and everything that every kid, the creative things we've seen come out of this in the last month are truly incredible. And kids are the best at it, but they just need to share it. And I think they need to know that we know what it feels like and we're happy to listen to them. Everybody can feel those things, but they've got to feel they've got an advocate. I mean, one of my most rewarding things, and we're going to get this a little more codified, organized, is that I've gone into theater teachers. I said, I have an after school program where you talk to our Zoom thing or take Q&As. And we're all going to do that for my theatrics. And I think it's what we as teachers always felt like, even when we all go into schools, their teachers are fabulous and they're saying the same things we are, but we're doing it in a different voice and letting someone know that we know what it feels like. And that's what happens when those Zoom room opens with Teachable Tuesdays. Because lots of times theater teachers and music teachers are a little bit alone in the world. We may be the only one person that they know that has a life and a schedule just like that. So knowing you've got a room full of people and some are on a different continent, we all know that feeling and we all are giving you that pat on the back. You know, I could sing my song for you right now, but they all need a pat on the back. And we're there to do it really at any time of night or day now, so they can call us and connect.
Cindy, do the song. Take us out with the song.
Yeah, please.
You did a fine job. You did a good job. Give yourself a pat on the back. You did a fine job. You did a good job. Give yourself a pat on the back. What we did was really grand. Give yourself a great big hand. You did a good job. You did a fine job. Give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a pat on the back. So give yourself a pat on the back. I love you guys.
You know, I have missed you so much, and I feel like the world needs more of you in it. So thank you for being on the podcast today, or the wow, I can't talk about this.
Yeah.
The Zoom podcast.
It means the same to me. I'm just honored to be here with you all. And it's like getting another big hug today.
I will say, Cindy and Al surprised us on Friday or Saturday night. I was with a group of friends
Oh, boy.
that all blends together. And Marty was on the call, and all of a sudden Cindy Now popped up, and we had an hour of our friends' virtual happy hour. So it was nice to see both of them Saturday night.
It was great.
Yay. Well, thanks, Cindy. Best to Al.
Guys, love to you all. Love to everybody. Hope we'll all keep connecting all the time.
Thanks, Cindy.
Please welcome Broadway superstar and a super nice guy, Mr. Rob McClure.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, how are you? I'm so good.
Thanks for joining us.
Anytime. It's good to see familiar faces in these crazy times. So thanks.
I agree. And to do what we love and to talk about what we love, we got to keep that hope out there.
Have to. Absolutely have to.
So where are you managing your quarantine? Where are you?
I live in Philadelphia. So my wife and my 15-month-old daughter, Sadie, are home in Philly. And, just waiting. That's the weird thing. We're all just waiting. But finding creative ways like this to stay connected and raise money for charity and keep in touch with our casts and our friends and our show families and our real families. And so doing the best we can.
Are you finding any guilty pleasures while you're in quarantine right now?
Food, like everyone else. But you're like, you do not, it is 1 o'clock in the morning. You do not need pretzels. Stop it.
I find myself reverting to childhood favorites. Like I can't stop eating raisins for some reason. It's like childhood comfort food.
I know. Why did for me, I resort to road trip eating. It's like, why? Why are you eating corn nuts? That's ridiculous.
Planning these ridiculous, every meal is the focus of our day. We start days in advance.
By washing the groceries. Yeah, you just begin there. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Nothing like the recipe starting with Lysol your box of pasta.
If you
bring
can
water to a boil.
That's only if you can find it.
That's right.
Well, Rob, you're no stranger to our listeners because you performed at the 2020 Junior Theater Festival. Tell us a little bit about what JTF was through your baby eyes.
I was so unbelievably overwhelmed. I really was. I think theater kids get a bad rap. I really do. I think theater kids are sometimes, being really outgoing and being really passionate at a younger age. Sometimes it's like kids, teenagers, middle schoolers, they think cool is kind of being I don't like anything. So if somebody finds something that drives them and fires them up and brings them joy, it's kind of calm down. So to see hundreds, thousands of kids with shared passion for something in one place, supporting one another, that's another thing that theater kids get a bad rap for. They get a bad rap about being competitive or petty or, my singing voice is better than your singing voice, or I think I'm going to be a star. Or these were just thousands of kids throwing love at one another and finding new best friends to talk about their favorite thing with. And I was overwhelmed to be a very small part of that festival. And I cannot wait to come back. And I can't wait to see the talent that you guys wrangle from around the world. It is astounding.
Was there a particular takeaway from JTF that you were thinking about kind of days later?
I think more than anything, it was the support for one another. I was backstage waiting to do our Mrs. Doubtfire presentation, and I would see kids come off the stage from their performance with the next group of kids waiting to do theirs. And there was they're complete strangers going you were amazing, hug. That's something I'll never forget. And it is truly, the thing that I was left feeling was oh my God, the great American theater is in wonderfully capable hands for the next generation. We've got nothing to worry about.
And it was really cool because those kids at JTF were the first really to see any sort of sneak peek from Mrs. Doubtfire.
truthfully, anything. We were so excited that they were the first, and they also were the first to see our little teaser video of me in costume, which was we were so excited to get out there, and because it's one heck of a transformation.
So the last time I interviewed you, Rob, was at the Mrs. Doubtfire press junket for iHeartRadio Broadway.
Yeah.
How are you guys holding up? How's the cast holding up together? You were supposed to open on April 5th.
Yeah.
You guys get together through like a Zoom conference and talk or rehearse?
Yeah, we do. It's, it's hard, but I feel like everyone, including us, needs to recognize that there's just a larger problem right now. And we just need to sit out. We need to sit out right now and let healthcare professionals and the people who are the true heroes in this situation deal with the problem. And we need to do our part by being still and throwing love and support. And our time will come. Our time will come, and the curtain will rise again. And it's going to be so electric when it does. The theater will be more essential than ever. The need to see a story told to you with your own eyes, not through a screen, is going to be more important than ever. The need for that connection, the give and take with a live audience and live storytellers, that people are going to be craving it. So I can't wait for that first night back of Mrs. Doubtfire when that curtain rises. I can't wait. But our cast has been throwing love at each other any way we can, texting, calling, Zooming. We did on April 5th, what would have been our opening night, we did a full run through of the entire show on Zoom together. There were 82 people on one Zoom call because all of the creative team wanted to be there, the crew, the musicians, everyone wanted to be there, be part of it. And it was really moving. It was moving and simultaneously proved that what we're doing right now doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, I've never realized more how much theater can never be replaced. You know what I mean? As all of these things come on, like we're going to start streaming your favorite shows of Broadway. I'm so grateful those recordings exist, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
So how daunting was it to step into the sensible heels of Robin Williams?
It was terrifying. It continues to be terrifying because I am as big a fan of him as anyone. I mean, he is a hero of mine, truly a legend. And I knew I had a responsibility to deliver for the fans in a way that made them feel like I cared as much about Daniel Hillard and Euphigenia Doubtfire as they do. And that's true. I do, and I did. Growing up with that movie, it left such an impression on me. I can see every frame of that movie behind my eyes. If I close my eyes, I can picture the whole thing, and I can hear that voice, Mrs. Doubtfire's voice, in my mind. So I knew I had a responsibility, but I also have a responsibility as an artist myself, and as someone who's bringing that story to a new medium, to bring a surprise and to bring myself. So what I found was, if I can establish for the first 10 minutes when Mrs. Doubtfire shows up, that character's in good hands, and that I love that character, I love what Robin Williams did with it, and that I'm going to fulfill the warm and fuzzy expectation in your heart that needs a certain something out of Mrs. Doubtfire. And the second I do, I feel the audience go, I trust you. And then I can take it somewhere new. Mm-hmm. But those first few moments are so crucial to letting the audience know, like, I love what you love, and I've worked my butt off to not mess it up.
What is it about the story of Mrs. Doubtfire, both the movie and now the musical? And I feel honored that I got to sit through a few of the numbers, but What is it about the story that just resonates so well with people and audiences?
Yeah, I think the thing about the movie that was really profound is that it was the first movie in modern movie telling that was basically like, hey, it was the first movie about divorce that wasn't like Parent Trap. It wasn't saying, hey, the happy ending is you finding a way to get your parents back together. My earliest memories of that movie are all of my friends from divorced households finally having a movie that said, like, hey, sometimes your parents are better people when they're separate, and you will be better for them being separate. But that doesn't mean you're not a family. You guys get to redefine what family means. And that is why, in addition to the brilliant comedy of that film, it makes for a good musical, because a good musical needs an emotional core from which the stakes can get so high to warrant breaking out into song. And those stakes for that family going through that messy time, and those kids amidst that messy divorce, they have real wants and needs and an emotional core that sings so beautifully that makes it worthy of a Broadway musical adaptation.
So a film is one medium, and theater, the musical theater, is very different.
Yeah.
How have you guys like adapted the show and the story for the stage?
One of the coolest things about it is that in the movie, anytime Daniel Hillard runs into the other room and then emerges 18 seconds later as Mrs. Doubtfire, it's exciting, but we all know in a compartment of our mind that the director yelled cut and Robin Williams went into a trailer for 5 hours in that 18 seconds. When we've got 18 seconds, we've got 18 seconds. So the stakes are immediately higher than the movie because the audience is watching me transform and sweating with me and looking at their watches going, he's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. When you're dealing with farce, which that style of comedy, stakes need to be high for it to be hysterical. And the stakes are never higher because what you're seeing is happening in real time. And that goes for every aspect of theater, right? That's what makes it so exciting, is that it's happening in front of your eyes. So when you're doing something as insane as a full transformation from a 37-year-old guy to an elderly Scottish woman in 18 seconds, and the stakes are so high because I'm not just fooling strangers, I'm fooling my family. The transformation needs to be convincing enough that I can look my ex-wife or my children right in the eyes and then not know it's me. It had to be that convincing. So that for me was the biggest difference between the film and adapting it for the stage. The stage requires stage magic, and figuring out how that movie becomes a piece of theater magic was left up to our brilliant director Jerry Zaks and our creative team and my heroic dressers who helped me get through it.
So Dan, who's our behind the camera person, can you show some of the photos of Rob in costume?
Oh, there she is.
So this is from the DW first look. This is just so fantastic because you guys had teased this for a while on Instagram.
That's right.
These were coming out. So talk us through, how many people does it take to get through a costume change like this?
Yeah.
You said 18 seconds is the fastest, but I think you also have like 42 costume changes.
Yeah, yes, and it's it takes 4 people. It's like the Indianapolis 500 when a car like pulls into the stop and you need all those people changing out the tires. That's what it feels like. I'm wearing pantyhose, heels, a bodysuit, the blouse, the skirt, the sweater, glasses, earrings, teeth, lipstick, the facial prosthetic, the wig, and then usually there's a purse involved as well. So it takes a village to make it happen. And what's really cool though is that there are opportunities for the audience to see that change. So you see exactly how we're doing it. It's like a magician finally showing you how the trick is done, but it doesn't make the trick less impressive. It makes it more impressive. And what they have figured out with those prosthetics was really amazing to be able to do that transformation so quickly. Dan,
can we see the next photo?
Oh, I miss my family. I miss my Hillard family. They are so brilliant, those kids. So you've got Avery Sell, who's the little nugget. You've got Jake, and you've got Annalise, and of course Jen Gambatese playing my ex-wife. And they are some of the finest people and some of the finest actors that I've ever worked with. It is a thrill, and it's so easy to have little Avery, look into my eyes and break my heart every night in the show. She's such a little sweetie. And you guys got to hear Annalise Scarpacci sing with me at JTF. Her voice is unbelievable. And Jake Ryan Flynn, who plays my son, he he's getting a bit of amazing fame from this John Mulaney Christmas special, this Sack Lunch Bunch, where he sang a song called Grandma's Got a Boyfriend. I think he gets more recognition at the stage door than anyone. He walks out the stage door and everyone's like, hey, it's Grandma's Got a Boyfriend. He sings his butt off in that. And Jen is just a doll. I'm so lucky to play opposite her. You
guys have such an amazing cast, and it translates so well that you guys have become such a family and such a bond unit. It was really lovely to see, especially at the press junket, how you guys all take care of each other. You take care of the young members of your cast so well. And it's really sweet to see.
Oh, thanks. I feel like when you do a show, the cast sort of adapts some of the moral fiber of the story they're telling. That's why, you see like a college production of Hair, and by the end of that run, they're all like, yeah, man, I feel like a freer person. You're like, okay, calm down. You did Hair for 3 weeks. Okay. But, you adapt the culture of the show into your own life. And Mrs. Doubtfire is all about family, 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 family. So when I get, Brad Oscar to play my brother, Broadway legend Brad Oscar, he feels like my brother. And when you've got Jay Harrison G, who plays his partner in the show, they bring such a wonderful energy to the show. They've done a really great job. In the movie, Robin Williams has his brother character played by Harvey Fierstein, and Harvey Fierstein has a partner, and those two guys, that couple transforms him into Mrs. Doubtfire. And in the movie at the time, they sort of, they provide some kind of cliche jokes, and they have really, in the musical, brought them into the family unit. They are much more a part of this story, and they have their own wants and needs, and they're trying to adopt a baby, and so they have been brought into the family fold in a way that feels like 2020. I was happy that they took the opportunities to look back at the movie and go like, oh, how has the world changed? And what can we do to make that definition of family as broad as it should be now?
So what's the one thing you'd like audiences to take away from, when they see the show and we're all in the theater cheering for you once again and the entire cast? What's the one thing you hope that we'll take away from the show?
Mrs. Doubtfire has a really incredible monologue. Toward the end of the show, Daniel Hillard gets his own kids' television show as Mrs. Doubtfire, and she takes real-time online questions from kids. And Daniel Hillard is surprised when one of those kids asks about their parents getting divorced. And Mrs. Doubtfire says, it doesn't mean you're not a family. There are all sorts of families. Some families have one mommy, some families have one daddy, some families have two daddies or two mommies, some live with their aunt or uncle or grandparents, even foster parents. None of it matters. As long as there's love, then you'll have a family in your heart forever. And then she turns front and she says, all my love, Puppet, you're going to be all right. And more than ever, I cannot wait to look at a full Stephen Sondheim theater again and tell them that they're going to be all right. Because it is, Mrs. Doubtfire has a way of cutting through the noise with warmth. And I'm so lucky that they've entrusted that character to me. And I can't wait to bring that character back to large groups of people. I feel like they need a big bleeding heart, and Mrs. Doubtfire has got one.
It's like we all just need a collective hug at this moment.
That's seriously, I cannot wait to hug my friends again. My wife celebrated a birthday a week and a half ago, and our very good friends who live nearby knocked on the door as a surprise, and we opened the door and there was a cake with candles sitting on the stoop, and they were on the curb with masks on singing happy birthday. And we had to thank them and blow out the candles and then wave. It's like, all I want to do is hug you guys for this right now. But it'll happen. And when it does, I hope we all remember how desperately we wanted it now. because I think they'll mean more than they used to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing is the Broadway community also right now is coming together more so than I think they ever have.
Yeah.
What is it about the Broadway community that just seems to always be able, in times of need, to come together, fundraise together? What is it about this community, do you think?
I think there's something about being theater is about collaboration, right? We are all united with the cause, and that cause is usually to tell a story, but we rely on each other in a way, which is why on closing night of any show, whether it's in the basement of a church at a community theater or in a high school or in a middle school or on Broadway, on closing night you cry because you have joined forces with these people in a way that you don't doing anything else. But ultimately what our job is to be professionals at putting ourselves in other people's shoes. That's what I do for a living. That's how I make a living. It's how I feed my family, by putting myself in someone else's shoes. I've done it for 20 years. So when something goes wrong, I think we have a way of putting ourselves in the shoes of the people being affected in the worst ways by it, and know that something needs to be done to help them. Now, theater people are also really great at getting stuff done. We problem solve, right? If you've got a moving light that you want to have some magical effect in your high school production of Camelot, but you've got a lighting grid from 1927 when the school was built, and you have to hang from the ceiling and figure out a way to rent a dimmer rack so that you can rewire your high school to have that moving light. And then you realize the moving light's $1,300 that the school doesn't have, so you need to have a fundraiser to raise money. We know how to make something happen. So that's why all of our dressers on Broadway right now are at home using the spare fabric they have and the sewing machines and the skills that they've adapted to churn out masks for the community. It's why we are all going online and singing and doing cameos for the Actors Fund. And we did that Rosie O'Donnell special and raised $500,000 in an evening. We know how to unite around people who are going through stuff because we've been through it before. We went through with the AIDS pandemic. And when people need rescuing, theater people seem to know how to unite and rally and inspire. And I'm so proud of what the Broadway community is doing. And not just the Broadway community. There are theater communities in every city in the world, and they're all struggling. You know, we're watching all of these regional theaters, ours in Philadelphia, closing for the rest of their regional seasons. And most of them are non-for-profits and are really, really hurt by this. And but they too, in our Philadelphia dressers, churning out masks, doing local fundraising and food banks, and just all over the world, you know, theater people coming together to help each other. It's an amazing thing.
It really is remarkable, and it's very moving. And I think what you said, Rob, was so smart about, I just could see that, you know, kid in his high school theater trying to make all of that moving light happen.
That's it, right? We all did it. We were in the high school, and it's like, I remember directing at my old high school, and we were doing Damn Yankees, and I wanted the devil to come up through the floor. Well, we don't have a hydraulic lift at New Milford High School, but it was very important to me that he come through the floor. So how do you do it? Well, maybe we put the couch in front of him in the Joe's living room, and we find a company that'll rent us one of those splash pods that'll make a big puff of smoke, so it'll look like he came out of the floor. You wrap your brain around unconventional ways of making things you need to happen. So when you go like, oh my gosh, these people are struggling, we've got an amazing organization like the Actors Fund or like Broadway Cares that figures out ways to help people, whether it be with health, housing, or health insurance, or health care, or in times of crisis. How can we raise money for them? Well, people miss hearing us sing. Let's find a platform to sing and tell them to donate to the Actors Fund. Let's, I just did for Steve Rosen and Gordon Greenberg wrote an adaptation of Dracula, a farce comedy version of Dracula that we did a radio play that you can go download, and the proceeds of that go to the Actors Fund. I created a Cameo account where I'll give shout outs to people for donations to the Actors Fund. It's I'm using the same compartment of my brain that I did when I was directing Blood Brothers at New Milford High School and had no idea what the heck I was doing.
I mean, directing Blood Brothers in high school, that's impressive enough.
Yeah, we worked our butts off. Those kids were amazing.
Well, each week we ask our guests to take a special musical theater quiz. So SJ and I are going to ask you a bunch of just random questions. Give us the first thing that pops into your mind.
I love it.
All right, on your mark, get set, go.
What's your favorite musical of all time?
Sweeney Todd.
Funniest or most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you on stage live?
A nosebleed.
What show?
Avenue Q is bad. Because I also didn't have hands to wipe it.
Did you bleed on the puppet?
Oh yeah, it was bad.
Or if you could play any role, regardless of gender, which would you choose?
Ebenezer Scrooge. I think in 30 years, I can't wait. It's the greatest character arc ever.
All right, who do you want to be when you grow up?
Danny Burstein.
Good one. If you could only eat one thing for eternity, what would it be?
Eggs, because you can make them a bunch of different ways.
Yeah. Of the roles that you've played, which one is your favorite between Charlie Chaplin and Chaplin, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart in Mozart, or Mrs. Doubtfire?
Mrs. Doubtfire. Mrs. Doubtfire. It's just too much fun.
Well, congratulations. You passed.
Oh.
We now owe you a brand new Mercedes Matchbox car.
Hey! I'll take it. We watch Price is Right every morning. So, and a special shout out because I did mention Danny Burstein. Danny Burstein just fought COVID-19 and beat it. He is, I want to be him when I grow up in so many ways, sending him lots of love and support.
If you haven't read his Hollywood Reporter first account story, I implore you all to go do that and read it. His account is heartbreaking and real and just what I think everyone needs to read right now.
And if you all don't know already, Broadway star and amazing guy Nick Cordero is really, really struggling right now. And his wife and 10-month-old son are doing everything they can to wake him up right now. He's on he's basically alive on a machine right now, and they're trying to rally his body to wake him up. So she's on Instagram. Her it's Amanda K. Lutz. Amanda Klutz, Kloots. And she every day is picking a song for Nick. Some are Nick's songs that he's written. Some are his favorite Elvis songs. And every day at 6 o'clock Eastern time, 3 o'clock Pacific, the world is dancing to wake Nick up. So if you want to follow her on Instagram, you guys can join in that rally because his family needs him. And it's just a reminder of some of the stuff that people are going through right now and how grateful we all should be for our health and to be able to have things like Mrs. Doubtfire to look forward to on the other side of this thing.
And also the team of doctors and nurses who are helping all of our communities right now, especially Nick's family and what Danny just went through and really our whole entire community. So thank you to them from the bottom of our hearts.
Heroes, absolute heroes.
Yeah. So that's today's episode. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're wishing you and your family health and happiness right now. And we can't wait to see Mrs. Doubtfire and your whole entire cast when you guys come back. We will be there cheering you guys on in the theater no matter what.
As will I at the next JTF. I love you guys.
Thanks, Rob.
You got it.
I mean, he is one of the nicest. You just feel his spirit is just so kind and sweet.
From the day we started iHeartRadio Broadway, one of the first groups that we went to was Beetlejuice. And from Beetlejuice to everything else, he has just been one of the sweetest human beings and has been willing to do everything for us. So I'm so happy that our JTF kids get to witness Rob and be around Rob. So it's great.
A true professional. And also, he made me cry twice.
I know, right? I was like, I'm already emotional enough.
Good stuff.
So that's today's episode of Growing Up Broadway. I am your co-host, S.J. Arninger.
And I'm your other co-host, Timothy Allen McDonald.
We hope you tune in next time.
Yeah, be sure to tune into our live broadcast of the Big 1-0 Zoomsicle coming Friday, April 17th at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
I'm so excited for you guys.
So excited. All you have to do is log on to our Facebook page, iTheatrics Facebook, or go to the iTheatrics YouTube page, and you can watch these 16 kids present a musical live.
Yeah, you guys are gonna, like I said earlier, I was in rehearsal yesterday, so it is definitely something that you do not want to miss.
Absolutely. So go out there and make the world a better place, one musical at a time.
May the Schwartz be with you.
And also with you.
Growing up, growing up, growing up, Broadway, growing up, Broadway.
iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.